Welcome to part 2 of this module. If you haven't already, download the steps of the exercise and follow the steps as Ronnie did in the video. Enjoy.
Let's switch gears and
Okay.
do an exercise. Why don't you set up the exercise for us, Michael?
Okay. This exercise has got 2 steps, and plus I'm going to give you an example. In fact, we're going to go back to Leonard and his dad in his hotel. First step, identify a current or at least the most recent situation where you were fully engaged in one of your favorite energy sponges. An energy sponge that you tend to use most often. That is step 1. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Step 2, think back to your experience of being at your very best and see if you could get yourself back into that mindset and see how being at your very best might be a better use of your energy in that situation. So let me give you an example. I asked Leonard to tell me of a time when he was at his very best. This was after we had talked about how much he had been worrying about his dad when he really didn't have a lot of sound and current data about if his dad was really going to get angry or not. So he shared with me a story from his teens. Len knew that his father wanted him to go out for the high school football team. Leonard had zero interest in football. Leonard was an artist. He told his dad that he would instead join the school's art team, which is something I had never heard of. He actually told his father this, knowing that a major upset would likely be forthcoming, and that is exactly what he said happened. I asked him, how did it feel to stand up to your dad? He said, it was really pretty scary. He said, but I was also proud of myself for sticking up for what I believed in. I said, oh, that's fascinating. And then asked him, do you believe in any of the ideas that have come up for the hotel? He thought of it and said, well, yeah, there are 3 in particular that he believed would really make a big difference. So I asked him, are you going to worry about what your dad might say, or are you going to make the changes? He kind of looked at me and then burst out laughing and said, okay, I'll make the changes. I'll probably worry as well, but I'll do it. And then I said, well, what's the worst that could happen if you told your dad so that you can stop worrying about it? He said, well, the worst that could happen would be another upset. And I've handled dad's upsets before, so I get your point, Michael. I'm on it.
And so he did it.
Yeah, he did it. So, are you ready to do this exercise?
Yeah, I'm ready to share. I am a part of a team where I'm leading a part of this larger project. And I found myself getting kind of really upset yesterday and kind of angry and blaming of the other members of the team, or the other co-leaders, let's put it that way. And I was like getting very upset that I had to do what I call very basic work of organizing meetings and doing all this other stuff, because I felt like it was a waste of my time. And, and so I got into this blaming mode, and it just kept cycling, and it was like this gnawing feeling. And it took me a good day to get over it. But yeah, I was eventually able to get past it. And so that was my situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I identified I was a blaming situation.
Mm-hmm. So imagine if you were at your very best. How would you handle that situation if it comes up again?
Well, I think that at my very best, I would have to reframe that situation for myself. Maybe, so I find myself, I'm struggling a little bit, Michael. Maybe you can help me. I'm not sure how I could use being, I guess if I was able to get back to a place of calm focus,
okay,
I would be able to sort of be at my very best.
So can you imagine yourself right now being in a space of calm focus?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, so now put yourself in the space of this group who aren't showing up with what they need to show up with. So with this calm focus, what would you do?
I would do exactly what I did, which was go ahead and do the work necessary to move the project along, because it was a part of my role to do that. What would change is just the energy that I was wasting, just getting irritated and blaming these individuals.
Yes.
I had to say to myself, well, actually, this is what you signed up for. This is what you agreed to do. And that's why you are the leader of this group, is this group often has problems moving a project along in a meaningful manner.
Mm-hmm.
And so if part of that is cutting through the anxiety of setting up meetings for other people. I mean, what I didn't say is people kept saying, well, are you sure you've asked this person? Are you sure you've asked this person? Are you sure you've asked permission to have a conversation? And I was like, you know what? We're done. We're done with that. We need to move along. And I just could have handled it better. I could have stopped that sort of edge in my voice and been more calm and focused about it. But I was able to move it along.
Yes. I hear two energy sponges. One was the blaming and the other was the resenting.
Yeah.
Now, that energy sponge is, I'm just about certain, is an old one for you, that you've had it for years, because all of us, whatever our sponges are, we've been doing them for decades.
Yes.
Now, it may or may not be useful for you to look back as to, what's the trigger for that? Then you can, that will allow you to notice when you're in that irritated, kind of resentful, blaming space a little more quickly, so that you can take a deep breath, calm down, refocus, and you're off and running, doing what they actually hired you for in the first place.
Yes.
Yes. So, part of it is that our energy sponges are essentially not very rational. That you were even resenting what they had hired you to do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yes.
But, so what's the but?
The but is, I realize when you asked me what the trigger was that I was trying to fix a situation on a part of the project that I was not hired to do. And that was they were doing the same kind of swirling action.
I got it.
And they were unable, and I found myself having to say things 3 or 4 times in order to cut through the swirl and get them to settle on a direction.
Great. Okay. So now let's take it one more step then. So you are now back in being calm and focused.
Mm-hmm.
And they are doing this swirling that you were not hired to handle, but
Correct.
it's getting in the way of things getting done. So from a calm focus, what might be a better, more useful response?
I think a better, more useful response would be to have called their attention to it in a manner, or taken it offline and talked to the individual that was perpetuating it, instead of trying to handle it in the moment, because the situation wasn't ideal. I was in a noisy environment. I was traveling, and it was a lot of stuff going on. So I think I wasn't fully calm and focused, because I was about to get on an airplane, and one never seems to be calm and focused. And getting on airplanes, at least I don't. And so I think there was a lot of triggering factors there where I should have just kept my phone on mute and dealt with it later.
Yes. Now, okay. Now that you know about those sponges, next, okay, because you are going to run into a situation like that again.
Yeah.
You are a consultant now, and clients typically misbehave. That's why they need us. So now that you know about that sponge, next time it happens, you will be able to catch it much, much sooner and switch it back to being calm and focused. Well done, Ronnie.
Thank you, Michael.
My pleasure. I'm here to serve after all.
All right, let's close this out. Do you have any? You mentioned homework at some point to me earlier on, Michael. Do you have homework on this particular module that we can do?
You know, what is always so useful is if you who are watching this video, once it's over, can actually sit down and make a list of your energy sponges. If you can identify what triggers them, that's useful, but it isn't totally necessary. Notice your energy sponges just so that you can list them, and then think back to that exercise of appreciative use of self. Think of a time when you were at your very best. And what was that experience like? It's not so much about the circumstances, but like Ronnie's experience of herself when she's at her very best is calm and focused. So at your very best, what's your experience of yourself? And next time one of those sponges hits you, what might you do instead if you were back at being your best self? So that's your homework if you wish to do it. And the more you practice, the better off you are. Just another final word here, something to think about. I know that when I first started trying to catch my sponges, I was pretty poor at it. What was a big help to me was to recruit some folks that I'm typically around and saying, look, I'm trying to stop wasting my time with these things I'm calling energy sponges. If you see me complaining, blaming, or whatever it is, would you pull my coattail and say, Michael, is this one of your sponges? So that I can get some support to get back to conscious use of self. That is very, very useful.
Great, thank you.
My pleasure.
Do you have any final words?
Well, it's just that life is too short to waste our time and energy on these sponges. If you can't stop them all together, which you can't do, we can at least certainly spend a lot less time with them, so we can spend more time doing the things that we enjoy and that are much more productive.
Yes. So great. Thank you, Michael. So in this second module of conscious use of self, we talked about energy sponges, which are those activities such as worrying, blaming, arguing that waste your time and your team's energy, and that get in the way of effectively leading teams and organizations. And we talked about what we can do to sort of stop that behavior and use appreciative use of self to be a better self in the moment. If you haven't taken that first module of conscious use of self, where we talk about what it is and how you define it, please do so, as it's foundational to this course and foundational to this series. If you have any questions or want further dialogue with Michael, please go to the online forum. And next, we'll be talking about 3 keys to making conscious use of self work.
Absolutely.
So I think it's time to say goodbye, Michael.
Goodbye, Ronnie.